are now live on Facebook. Happy, what are we? Tipsy Tuesday. I think Stubbs already got that in motion. I, however, am drinking some very healthy water that is powered by Pinot. Thank you, Oregon Wine. I am Jenn with Wine Antics. I am an advanced wine taster, a pretty special lady, and a very excited conference attendee heading out to the Wine Marketing and Tourism Conference. Tonight, we are welcoming back January Wiese from Texas Hill Country Wine Association. I know that's like the extended version, but that's exactly what it is.
It is.
So, January, I would love it if you would take a moment and introduce yourself again, because we know we love you and we want to hear more about you.
You're sweet. It's been 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
January Wiese, Executive Director of Texas Hill Country Wineries, like Jen said. I've been with the association since 2008. I've been in the industry since 1991, and it's all I know. So it's what I love and what I do.
Amen.
Love my job, love the wineries and the people I work with. I find that when I'm talking about the region, like to family and friends, I'm not talking about the wine specifically because the people here, for me, stand out more. So I'm talking about them a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, just like any job, I mean, any kind of career or passion that you have is defined by the people that you work with. So I'm so glad to hear passion and happiness in the people and the great product of wine coming out of Texas. Of course, most people know from Wine Antics Live every Thursday, my co-host and regional TV star, Stub from CorkEnvy.com.
Hi, I am Stub from CorkEnvy.com. I am a filmmaker, wine writer. I'm going to say wine expert because I'm cocky, and that regional TV star thing is soon to be national. I'm coming for you, KLG and Hoda, on the 4th Hour Today Show. We are going to drink together at some point in 2017 on film, live on NBC networks.
Unlike what they do now.
Yeah, that's who I am. I'm not doing that Spanky Tuesday thing, though. That's weird. I don't want those old broads slapping me on my butt. That's just that's weird.
Part of you does, don't lie. So
every part of me does. You're correct.
So I want to thank everybody who's joined us here on Huzzah, Alina, and Lori, and JV. If you don't tell me what your name is, I'm good. I'm always going to call you JV, but I know that's not it. And everybody else who is joining us in Facebook, I really appreciate it and look forward to sharing Wednesdays conference sessions and events with you guys. And I hope possibly Robin Scott, who's from Zephyr Conferences, will pop in and share a little bit more, because this is the first time of the 3 live shows now that we're actually getting down to the meat of the conference. So there's a lot of great content plus great events. Jim, thank you very much. Jim Van Bergen. I will never call you JV again now.
JVB is way more Texas, though. Just so JVB is way more Texas.
It is. And I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know. We were hoping to have Connie from Fredericksburg, which is the area that we are going to stay in, and they have a nice little session going on. I don't know if you can talk to it a little bit, January. Do you feel comfortable with that? Good.
Yeah, I can talk about most. I can talk about most of the day. Sure.
It's like you planned this or something.
It's what?
It's like you planned this conference as being the host or something.
Just a little. I just read the agenda actually. So I'm good.
Did you? Okay, good. You're ahead of the game for most of us. And that's actually a very fair point. Let me put out, so everybody can actually follow along in tonight's discussion, is the event agenda. And again, we are going with Wednesday, November 9th. And we're going to talk through the sessions and the events. And I've just shared it here in Huzzah, and I will share it a minute in Facebook as well. So let's start with, if you didn't the very beginning of this, there's a little bit of time in the very early morning where if you didn't register for the conference, you have a little time to do that. I do not recommend doing that. I highly recommend, if you can be there the night before, to leisurely take your time, grab your badge, get a map, understand the layout, and get a feel for the whole thing that you're gonna experience as the night before.
And to do that welcoming wine tasting the night before as well, that we talked about as well before on the show.
Absolutely. And I think Connie may have popped in. Connie, are you there? Maybe. Yay! Welcome.
Yes, I'm here.
Connie, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself now that you've, I'm so glad actually have gotten on.
Can you hear me?
Connie? Yeah.
Okay. I'm Connie Patke. I'm with the Fredericksburg Convention and Visitors Bureau. We've been doing a lot of work with January, helping put the program. And we can't wait to welcome everybody to the Texas Hill Country.
You're breaking up and breaking in and out. January, do you know Connie's role and her title?
No.
She
runs all the conferences. I know that. Give me 1 second, and I will tell you.
I didn't email on this.
No,
spot.
It's fine.
And but Connie Pataki?
She is the meeting sales manager for Fredericksburg Convention and Visitor Bureau. Like I said, she runs everything over there for the conferences and the meetings. And anytime you want to plan something in Fredericksburg, she is your go-to girl.
And the most hospitable force behind Fredericksburg, Texas.
Yes. She knows the ins and out of everything happening over there.
Well, I hope we'll be able to hear from you a little bit more as we go along, Connie. I hope your Wi-Fi will actually work a little bit. I don't know. I'm getting a little bit of a feedback. I think that you might have something to do with the audio, and if you're talking stuff, I can't hear you.
Feedback from you, but not from January.
You're getting feedback from me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll go through will you start
I will start, and you try to fix that. So January, we're going to start with the conference opening, which is from Brian Daniel, who probably no one knows who he is, except that he's actually from the Economic Development and Tourism Division from the Governor's Office, which I will say, having attended many or a couple of wine tourism conferences and wine bloggers conferences, we usually get regional or local tourism directors doing this. But we have the whole Director of Economic Development Tourism for the great state of Texas. That's a pretty big get and awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about him and kind of what the governor's office does? I know you probably work with them fairly closely here and there. Being so close, or am I putting words in your mouth and you don't? You have no idea who this guy is?
No, I don't. I don't know who he is. This will be the first time that we get to meet him. And we work more with Texas Department of Ag and Go Texan on a regular basis. The governor's office oversees, TDA, of course, but for us, this will be our first interaction with them. So I'm excited to meet them and meet Brian and his staff and whoever gets to come out with him, because I think having him say yes and being able to attend the conference and see what we've done, not just THCW, but Go Texan and Fredericksburg CVB, will really show them where Texas wine is going and Texas Hill Country wine is going and wine tourism in the state, and hopefully get them excited about what we're doing. So
I totally agree. And just having someone at that level, especially in this, once again, if you're not from Texas or don't know much about Texas, everyone from Texas is like, oh, Texas is great. And it is great, by the way. being from Texas. It's amazing.
Not
But
biased.
people kind of make fun of that a little bit, like this, you know, you're born and raised Texan, but Texas is a huge state. Like if you flip Texas upside down on the map of US, it's just it's basically 1/3 of the country. I mean, it's huge. And there's a lot of space and there's a lot of different things that people do, especially with like economic development and tourism stuff. I mean, there's those things exist in every part of the state. And I know I've said this on a couple other things. I'm really rah-rah about Texas, even though I don't live there anymore. I love the place. But yeah, we have everything in Texas, every geographical feature that the rest of the country has, except for glaciers. Unless I'm mistaken, January, have they put glaciers in Texas since I've left?
Nope, we're totally good. We don't have glaciers, which is great
Right.
because we don't really need that cold.
Right. But the guy from the governor's office, seriously, is a big deal. Like
It
I
is.
sound like I'm making fun. I'm really not trying to. I'm just that excited about this. It's really cool that we have someone from the governor's office of Texas coming to speak to us and open the conference.
Yeah, and we're really excited, like I said, to meet him, but also to hear what they think of the industry and what he's got to say about, you know, what they see from their office, you know, on their own, because we haven't had that interaction with them. So to see what they've taken away from what, you know, we've done, and not just THCW, but the whole state, will be interesting to find out.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. All right. So we'll stop on that. We'll get into something I'm guessing you probably know a little more, is the intro to Fredericksburg and the Texas Hill Country. You definitely know Fredericksburg and the Texas Hill Country well. Can you tell us a little bit about that kind of opening and intro to the area and the wine growing and grape growing and winemaking there?
Yeah, so for this panel, it just seemed fitting for me to moderate, and we got a winery owner, a grape grower, and a tourism expert. And so we've got Chris Brundrett from William Chris Vineyards, who we talked about last week, who's doing the dinner on Tuesday night. Yep, it's all running together. So we've got Chris coming to talk as a winery owner, and he's also a grower and a big force behind our industry right now. And so we'll have that point of view from Chris. And then we've got Andy Timmons coming. He's actually a grower up in the High Plains. He's one of our biggest growers up there, which, of course, you know, what is it? 80% of our fruit comes from the High Plains. So that is perfect to have Andy represent that. He's also on the board of the High Plains Wine Growers Association. So,
and can I interrupt for a minute, January? Just for those who don't know, the High Plains of Texas would give us a couple of major cities up there where people may remember.
Major cities.
The cities, the towns people would know.
Yeah,
Lubbock.
we're going with Lubbock.
Lubbock is a good one. And I think that's good. Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost Oklahoma, but God smiled on those people and kept them in Texas, and Lubbock is still there. So no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. You just say
that's
that. My point being, we have all the features of the country there in Texas. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Just wanted to familiarize people with the landscape. Please
so Lubbock is basically, like you said, Oklahoma, New Mexico, way up there. I mean, it is an 8-hour drive from the Hill Country, so it's a long ways. But Andy he's not only now just a grape grower, not just a grape grower, but a grape grower. They started Lost Straw Vineyards, years ago, and then they just recently started Lost Straw Cellars, which opened a tasting room here in Fredericksburg. So he will have a point of view from both sides as well. And then, of course, we've got Ernie Loeffler from the Fredericksburg CVB, who is one of the huge forces behind this conference, along with Connie and their team, bringing the wine tourism conference, wine marketing and tourism conference here. So you'll get to hear about what they're doing in Fredericksburg, and they're a perfect example because they are our biggest supporting city and CVB and county. They don't just cover Fredericksburg, they cover Gillespie County as well. And we work with them constantly, more than any other CDB across the Hill Country, more than Austin, more than San Antonio. They're huge supporters of the industry. And so he has great insight into wine tourism around here.
Cool. And you work with Fredericksburg a lot. I mean, it's not far from Austin, but explain Fredericksburg a little bit, if you can, to people who may not know Fredericksburg specifically, and kind of its quaintness and the like. because
Sure.
it is kind of a small town touristy feel, but it's definitely down home and not it's not put on in my opinion. But I'll let you to explain that if you can a little bit. How
Yeah.
Fredericksburg is a good attraction for people.
Yeah. So people always ask me about, what we're doing here and how the wineries are so busy, and especially along 290, which is just, right through the middle of Fredericksburg. And I always tell people that we're really lucky as a wine industry and a wine tourism industry that this was already here. Fredericksburg and the Hill Country were already nationally recognized as a tourism spot. And so we just, I guess, built where where it was already built in for us, the infrastructure. But it's not like a lot of your, wine towns. It's very small. It's very quaint. Like you said, it's an old German town. And I mean, you'll see some really cool historic buildings right downtown. Some of our wineries are in some old buildings. I don't know that any that will actually, William Chris, which, like we said again, Tuesday night dinner in one of those old farmhouses. So you'll be able to really get a feel for what it was like. The downtown buildings are amazing, but the hospitality in Fredericksburg is above and beyond, not just at the wineries, but downtown shopping and the downtown restaurants. And that's really blooming in Fredericksburg is the food scene. We've got some great restaurants coming up, German food, Otto's, bistro, Otto's. I don't know if they're bistro or restaurant, but Otto's is what we all call it. Really great. There's, Mexican food, burgers, all that kind of stuff, steaks, but you'll see a lot of the German heritage come out in a lot of the buildings, the food, and the people.
Absolutely.
I thought that was so interesting. It's I can't say that I've been to a ton of conferences, but by comparison to last year, okay, when we were in Loudoun County, which has great wine and has a lot of great hospitality, being centrally located in Fredericksburg with so much history and very unique history as a German settlement, is something that is like it's like an onion. There's an added layer of something to experience when visiting there, and I'm personally pretty excited about that.
Yeah, Fredericksburg is an old town. It's like you said, it's got a lot of history. We've got the Nimitz Museum. There is the Pioneer Museum, which is really cool. We've got one of our industry members, Donna Renee, who does the Fredericksburg Wine Walk. And she not only takes you to different wineries downtown, but she takes you and gives you the history of Fredericksburg and these cool old buildings. And so there's a lot more than just wine and shopping and that kind of stuff. There's, a lot to see and do there.
Awesome.
I hope I have time to do a little bit more than just learn a ton of things about marketing and tourism in the wine industry. So you're moderating that panel. What I usually do when people come in as moderators, I like to give them the option to kind of tease the audience about what the panel, like what you have in mind for the panel, if you would. If the couple of the questions, what are your top 3 focuses on the panel or something like that? Like what are we going to take away from this panel?
Well, let's see. I'm going to pull up my question.
I never make it easy for January. I'm like, yeah, just everything about everything, right?
Well, I mean, I know that one of the big things that we're going to talk about is the difference between the high plains and the hill country and the distance that we have, and what that is like for wineries and vineyards.
Okay.
The issues that we have transporting grapes, communication, just that, I mean, that 8-hour drive is huge.
So that's like, I'm sorry to interrupt again, January, like that's like LA to San Francisco driving.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, or let's see, I'm in DC. 8 hours would put me
somewhere
north of Boston.
Going
north,
like 8 hours.
Or Niagara Falls.
No, Niagara Falls isn't even 8 hours. I've driven that. That's like
Mhm.
6.5. Like, and it's going west. Like, but I think the LA to San
Be
Francisco.
Canada from here. There you go. There's your perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I could change countries from the mid East Coast in that 8-hour drive.
Yep.
So that's a huge drive. And plus, if you keep driving north in Texas, there's, I don't know, probably another 4 hours depending on your route before you actually leave the state. If you go up through the Panhandle. So I just want to emphasize that. January. I know it's hard. Like Texans are just like, oh, Texas is the world. And some people really don't understand Texas till they go through there.
How big it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had people ask me, I'm driving through Texas. Where should I go? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you have 7 days?
Right.
Because it's huge. So anyway, sorry,
No.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but just wanted to make that point for people who aren't familiar with Texas and the geography there again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please go
That's
ahead.
a huge thing for us. I mean, the Hill Country is 9 million acres. We cover 15,000 square miles. And so that's big as it is. That's big enough.
Mhm.
And so we have our own issues here. So we'll talk about that probably with Chris as from a winery standpoint and a wine tourism standpoint. How we've got 25 wineries along 290 between Johnson City and Fredericksburg, or just west of Fredericksburg. And so that's a great, concentration of wineries. But then we have a total of 50 plus wineries, as part of THCW. And so a lot of those are north, south, here in Dripping Springs and Driftwood, around the lakes area. And so we're going to talk about how we handle that huge area as far as wine tourism here. Sending people here and there, working together, and how that works in such a big distance.
Even with that discussion alone, I feel like that applies to probably 85% of the wine tourism plight within the United States, because it's not all like California that you can throw a stone left or right and hit a winery. There are some real issues when you're dealing with tourism in trying to work together. You only have a couple wineries, or it's the areas are separated so far from one another. They have such differentiation from one another. But also, if you're talking about a lot of the grapes come from the high plains. Just think about moving fruit back and forth. I hear people talking about that with one of the wineries down in Southern Maryland that is a co-op, and they're just moving grapes maybe an hour, and there are so many issues that come with that. I mean, I couldn't even imagine between the high plains and Hill Country, which is was that 7 hours?
8 hours, yeah.
8 hours?
Mm-hmm. That's a full night's sleep.
Go.
Yeah, I could be sleeping.
I wouldn't know from that, but the other cool thing is I think you guys are somewhat unique into wine regions off the top of my head, in major wine regions in the country where you have major cities. I mean, obviously Napa Sonoma has San Francisco, but you get a little out of there and there's Napa Sonoma, and they're kind of their own thing, and there's those towns there. Y'all also have you've got Fredericksburg, which is a great tourist town, but you have Jenn, you were laughing because I corrected myself to say y'all. I saw that.
Said y'all.
I saw that.
Sorry.
No,
He's getting ready.
yeah, no, I am. I'm trying to get back. I'm gonna have to call my parents and talk to them for a bit.
There's gonna be at least 3 instances that I'm gonna look at Stub. I'm like, who are you again?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna sound like a different person once I get down around all the accents again. But you also have Austin and San Antonio. I mean, those are huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, San Antonio is top 10 city in the country, so you have those draws. So you're drawing people who are going for tourist destinations to those cities as well. And I think you guys, see once again, I'm killing myself. I think y'all have a distinct, little bit of a different thing. I don't think Napa draws people who aren't interested in wine, but Austin draws people who are interested in the Texas Capitol or Longhorns football or whatever. In San Antonio, obviously the Riverwalk and the Alamo. So you're trying to draw people into the wine country from that. And I think that's a different thing than some of the other wine regions we think of. I mean, Napa Sonoma being number one. I mean, Washington, the wine regions are a little bit out. Willamette Valley, Portland, Oregon. Those are a little south. So people aren't going to Portland and saying, I'm going to Portland and doing wine. I mean, it's not far, but it's sort of the San Francisco, Napa, Sonoma thing. But you're probably trying to pull people from other things into the wine tourism there. And I think that's a really interesting aspect. So hopefully you've thought about that, and I haven't given you more homework to think about for your thing. But
no, I mean,
I just think it's an interesting area.
Yeah, that is something that we think about. We're actually currently in the middle of, well, not in the middle, actually, we crossed the hump. We're doing a 6-video series about the different areas of the Hill Country. And so we started with Dripping Springs and Driftwood, and then we did the South and the North, and then we did what we call the lakes, and then the top of the Hill Country, not the North, the top of the Hill Country. And then we're doing 2 separate videos on the Fredericksburg 290 area, just because there's so many and it's so different. And one of the things that we are focusing on is not just the wineries and the wine and the, what the wineries offer, but what else there is to offer. The lakes and the hiking and the, there's breweries and, other things that you can throw in with that. The bed and breakfast, where to eat, Enchanted Rock. Yes, Lori. We've got a winery out in Vanderpool, which is just right by Lost Maples. And you can go out there in the fall and see, the leaves change and all that. And so that's something that we're trying to focus on, is what else is there to do with the, with visiting the wineries. And so that's what that series is about. And, we're throwing, of course, the wine and the wineries in there and trying to see how it all fits together and what else there is for people to do. You talked about drawing from the bigger cities. So we just finished a study from, our website and ticket sales numbers, and 93% of our visitors come from Texas. And we're looking at, oh my gosh, 22% from Austin, 20% from Houston, and about 17% from San Antonio. And so we're looking at focusing on those regions, as especially Austin and San Antonio, that this is a day trip. If you live there, you work there, or even if you're just visiting there, you can easily come up here, visit a group of wineries, and then head back to the city for, cocktails and dinner. Because we don't really have much of a nightlife out here in the Hill Country, as you'll see. You kind of have to make your own when you get out here. But if that's something that you're wanting when you come visit, that's your best bet, is to stay in the city, come out for a day trip, go back, spend time in Austin, seeing the Capitol, seeing the Riverwalk in San Antonio, and then come back another day. It's a real easy trip.
I may or may not be speaking from experience that is a very possible thing to do 2 to 3 days in a row.
Oh, to come in and out?
It's very easy to do. No, it's very easy to stay in San Antonio or Austin.
It is.
And go back 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Especially if you're used to living in the DC area where you drive an hour anywhere as it is.
Yes. If you drive an hour and actually get 70 miles, it's awesome. So we should probably move on a little bit, because we're on the first panel of the day here.
Yeah.
I know.
Our next the next session for that day is the panel of professional wine tourism writers. Jenn, I don't know if you know any of these people on the panel.
I don't know that they were even announced, honestly. And it's I think you're on the opposite panel for Thursday, right? Where it's like
yes, I'm on the Thursday panel at that same time frame. But so the professional wine tourism writers, I think that's going to be a great a great opportunity. I'm hoping that the wine writers who've agreed to be here and tourism writers know something about the area. And obviously they're going to be speaking more to, kind of the professional and the industry bent, as far as like, hey, here's what we write about. Here's what people want to see. Here are the things you can do to help us write about you and make you sound more awesome. Ursula Geiger from Vina Magazine. I've heard of Vina Magazine. I'm not super familiar with it. Is it a German magazine? I mean, she's from Germany, so I'm not familiar with her specifically, I have to admit. Drew Lambert, I am familiar with Wine Wankers out of Australia. And then Wines and Vines magazine I'm familiar with, and also Eat magazine I'm familiar with as well, with Julie Pegg and Paul Franson from Wines and Vines. Really great panel there, I think. And I think a good diverse panel, and I love the international aspect of it, especially for the tourism concept of getting people to come for wine tourism from other countries and not come to the U.S. for wine tourism and go to California, Oregon, Washington, or New York. I really love that. I think that's really cool. So that should be a great panel.
So I will tell you that I think 4 of those panelists are coming from the wine writers and the media tour that Fredericksburg CVB has put together specifically for the conference. So they're bringing in, through their agency, they're bringing in, I think 10. There's 10 wine writers from across the world. Germany.
Wow.
There's somebody
excellent.
from Mexico, Australia, and so a number of those writers came from that list that Ernie and his team worked on pulling together. So that's a huge get for us too, is their pull that they working with their agency to get those people not only to come here but to speak at this conference for everyone. So
right, and being writers and journalists, like obviously y'all have shown them some great hospitality there in that region. They're coming before the conference, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I want to say maybe they're coming in on Sunday, because I know that they're doing the excursion on Monday, to a handful of the wineries, and then they'll be joining us for maybe some of the stuff on Tuesday, certainly the expo, and then a little bit on Wednesday, and then a Wednesday night dinner. But then they'll also be taking them out to show them other parts of Fredericksburg and what's going on. So
cool.
They'll be doing that as well.
So they will have gotten some experience there, and they'll be a little high from the hospitality and the Uber attention they're being paid because they are on a press trip. But at the same time, they're also professional journalists, and they're going to have this great perspective on the area. I think that's going to be an amazing panel, actually. Knowing that, and that little tidbit there, January, actually made me more excited about that session.
Yeah, I don't know how wine tourism writers differ than wine writers per se. I'm kind of interested to hear, and I may be that person that raises their hand, like what differentiates you as a wine tourism writer versus a wine blogger or just a wine writer in general?
I think Jenn, personally, if I can answer, Jenn, from my personal experience talking to people who kind of specialize. I mean, we know wine writers kind of specialize in areas, whether it be, specific varieties or specific regions or whatever. Tourism is going to be more kind of the wine tourism is going to be more of a travel and wine, or traveling for wine specifically. So it's definitely kind of a combining or marrying of those things. But I think they also focus on what else is there and what accentuates the wine experience when you go to certain areas for touring and traveling. So I think that'll be really cool, especially having so many international voices on the panel in that session. I think that'll be a really interesting session.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I'm excited about that. And so that takes us all the way actually to lunchtime, January, where we're heading to Woodrose Winery.
Yeah.
Do you know a little bit about that?
I do. Yeah. So
you planned it.
Kind of. Mike Gillette, actually, that's maybe not how you say it. If Connie's on there, she can probably correct me. Gillette. Anyways, Mike is the owner of Woodrose, and he is hosting all 180 plus of us for lunch. We'll all be taking buses out there, and he is doing a 6-course Italian food and wine pairing. So he'll have 6 stations set up. Each one will be paired with one of the Woodrose wines. He did let us know that 5 out of 6 are vegetarian and 3 out of 6 are gluten-free, if that's something you need.
Whoa, what? Yeah. 5 out of 6 dishes in a 6-course meal in Texas are vegetarian.
Yeah.
That is astonishing and somewhat impressive and awesome.
Well, we talked 2 weeks ago when I was on. We talked about our varietals or varieties, or Mediterranean varietals, and so he is pairing that with Italian foods, and so it goes really well. He's going to have Caesar salad, antipasta, Italian wedding soup, veggie fettuccine alfredo, a lasagna with meat sauce, of course, and then tiramisu, which is one of my favorites. And it'll be somewhat casual. We'll all get there, enjoy, like Lori is saying, the deck and the dance. So everything will be in the dance hall, which is wrapped by a beautiful deck. And then you'll visit all the stations. You don't have to start at salad. You get to start wherever you want. except for dessert. I guess that comes out last. And then he'll pair it with one of his wines, and we'll get to meet Mike and some of his team and taste some great wines and have some really good food. And,
wow.
and Mike, the owner, is actually the chef. I don't know that he went to school, but he does all the food there at Woodrose all the time for all the events, weddings, and everything.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
Yeah.
And so what wines are we looking forward to there? I know you said they're Mediterranean, mostly in the area. Do you know what they're famous for or what they're known for?
He actually didn't give us a list of what wines he's doing with lunch. So I don't know yet.
Surprise.
Yeah, I guess it'll be a surprise for all of us.
Ooh. Well, I assume they'll pair well with Italian, if nothing else. I'm very excited about the tiramisu. You've just kind of made my day by saying
It's like my favorite thing in
That-
the whole world.
The tiramisu is vegetarian, but probably not gluten-free.
No.
If
better not be.
If
I got
my-
time.
if my minimal training as a very experienced home cook serves, the tiramisu is vegetarian but not gluten-free. I will eat any of it. I don't care. You could wrap a tiramisu in a pork chop and I would eat it. Moving on, I just want to move us on in a thing here. So we have breakout sessions after lunch when we get back. After this, once again, although it's all vegetarian and mostly gluten-free food, sounds actually amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. We have breakout sessions where you choose one or two for the first afternoon session, which is Wine Country Videos, where Dina Monday, I believe, of Juice Media will be talking about making videos to help promote your winery or wine region, which I think will interest a lot of people. That personally will be the session I'm attending from my perspective and what I do and what I'm interested in. I know it's hard to believe.
Because you do a little bit of video, right?
I've done a few things. I may be interested in doing exactly what they've written here. Honestly. So I'm interested in that. But for other people, the drink local means travel local. This is an interesting thing for people. So tourists in the local area, but we've touched on this with you, January, a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as like you want these local people to visit you and drink your wines and come to your region and continue to buy your wines and support the winemaking in your area.
Yeah. And
so I think that's a cool thing too. And these are not local people doing these. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not mistaken on this. These are not Fredericksburg or Texas people doing these.
For the drink local?
The drink local it's moderated by Jeff Siegel, who's out of Dallas, Fort Worth. He started the Drink Local Wine Conference years ago. It started here in Texas and Dallas.
Okay.
They went to Virginia. We went to Missouri. And they went one other place after that. I'm not sure the status of the conference at this point. But it's a really great conference started on that drink local concept.
Nice.
And so he's the moderator, and then we have Jessica Dupuis from Texas Monthly, who is a huge Texas wine supporter. She got Texas Monthly to commit 4 times a year for her to do the top 10 Texas wines of the season and whatever. So she's a great supporter. And they've also, she got them to start a Texas Monthly wine club, which is pretty awesome.
That's great.
And then we've got Ross Burtwell from Cabernet Grill, which is probably the biggest restaurant supporter of Texas wine. He has 100% Texas wine list when you go in there for dinner.
Wow.
The food's amazing. And then I don't know Jim Traster. That's how you say it. A hospitality industry consultant. I don't know that he's from Texas. I've never heard of him.
I think that I'm going to assume that they know and or understand the statistics you kind of shared a little earlier, that most of the people that are enjoying Texas wine are local people. They're coming from Texas, and they really are embodying and going with that Go Local movement. So that is something that I think a lot of regions try to, if not talk about, aspire to optimize and maximize, because that it's harder and harder to get distributed without the big numbers and the production line to follow behind it. I mean, we can go into the semantics of distribution, but some distributors won't even touch you under a certain amount of cases. So being there, being local, supporting your community, and creating that local community feel when it comes to not only wine but food and travel and tourism and other beverages is really important, and I look forward to that.
Yeah.
And you get some of the laws, the various laws in each state, and the fact that January, you said 93% of your visitors are from
Texas. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so that's a big number. So that whole local thing is big, and I think very specifically in Texas, that's a big deal. As far as this is Texas wine, and it's good. If it's good wine, Texans are going to be about it, and even if it's mediocre wine, Texans are going to be about it because they love Texas.
Yeah, I don't think we said this 2 weeks ago, but 90% of Texas wine is consumed by Texans.
Right.
So they're huge supporters. But I mean, that's a Texas thing. I mean, I'm not from Texas. I married a Texan, and so I see it in my family.
Good for you.
It is a Texas thing. They're so proud, and they support their local businesses, and that carries over greatly into the wine industry, which is good to see.
Oh, it actually is, and I think there are areas like that in the country, but I don't feel, having lived in Virginia for years, people support the local Virginia wines, but not to probably the fault that Texans would for the pride in being Texas. Honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, once again, just from that perspective, I keep bringing that up. I'm sorry. I'm a proud Texan. Sorry.
You have the sticker on your fridge to prove it too.
I don't, and the door. I painted that
Yeah, where
Texas
is
flag
that?
door. Well, that's down in my garage. I actually am up in my studio. There's less echo up here, and maybe looks a hair more professional, but
I don't know.
We'll see.
Further away from the bourbon, which is safer for all of us while we do a live show.
Also true.
And Jim puts out a good point here in Huzzah. And I would like to quickly say thank you to Michael Thomas and Penny Sadler, who are over in Facebook land. Hi guys, thanks so much for joining and in the conversation. If anybody would like to go to the conference, there's still time to do it. I mean, Stub and I really got some decently priced tickets down there, and I'm a little like, I don't want them to take the price away from me. Right. It's that good. Like, I was really impressed by it. So there is still time to get tickets, and I was going to just share the registration page for anybody that is interested in joining Stub and myself and January and Connie and Robin and all of the very fun people behind the scenes. And you even know somebody now. Like, that's one of the best things that I really enjoy about doing these, is that you're here, we're talking about it. You now know somebody going down there. So you never have to be the wallflower that I was for the first conference where Stub found me.
That's true. Jenn is a wallflower. The only person I know who is a bigger wallflower than Jenn is myself. So it's amazing that we actually ended up talking to each other ever. But yeah, no, this is great. I do love this. I know it worked for the Bloggers Conference, even though I'd been to 4 before the last one. We met some met people online that made an easier introduction, because it is somewhat awkward in a group of people sometimes to just go over and be like, I know you. I don't want anyone to feel like that with me. This may be, as Lori suggested, the shirt that I'm wearing at least in the afternoon and evening on Tuesday, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Yep.
We have one more afternoon session, 2 breakout sessions to discuss, if we can move forward on that, though.
Yeah.
So one is content creation. Everything you should know in 1 hour. Are you kidding? That's amazing. So no, it's kind of dealing with the content is king thing, kind of idea. And our presenter on that is, on my phone,
Beth Kosta.
Beth, not Pasta.
Beth Palouse.
There we go. Thank you.
Yes, both Beths at the same time.
Right.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
There's a lot of Beth love going around.
There is a lot of Beth love going on. So this is about creating amazing content and, just drawing people to your website, whether it be, to draw people to your region, if you're a tourism board or your specific winery or your wine trail, if you're that divided up. I think this is a really cool, once again, this will be the session that I feel like I'm going to be attending that will be a little more apropos to my personal activities in meeting people and otherwise. Any comments on that session at all, January or Jen?
Not for me, sorry.
I think it's kind of difficult from, like Stub and I are both technically, I guess, wine bloggers, somewhere between wine bloggers and wine vloggers, because we don't really fit in any, well, I personally don't fit in anywhere. I shouldn't speak for Stub, but we are content creators. And I think as individuals coming on the outskirt of the wine industry, it's very different than when you're directly in the industry. When you're in tourism and providing a service to people going to producers, or if you're a producer themselves, there are some significant nuances for content and strategies behind it that are different than just being a blogger, like where we come from. And I personally want to go to this session to see what things overlap, and then what things I can take away as a content creator that I can either help producers or help tourism industries do their jobs easier, or things that have been successful for them and that I can use for myself.
Nice.
Boom.
And Jen, you just reminded me, and I had this thought before and I hadn't told you until just now. So surprise on live internet television.
This is live.
The competing session with that is creating engaging activities and events.
Mm-hmm.
Which is Beth Kosta doing this one.
Oh, okay.
Beth Kosta from Wine Road is doing this. And talking about creating interesting themes. What is it? Effective planning, ensuring financial success, and what works for events and what doesn't when you're doing wine country events. So I'm assuming she's going to talk about specific winery things or maybe some wine tours or things like that. I think that's great. I think what I'm going to do, Jen, is we're going to split this up, and I'm going to go to this one and let you go to the content creation one. That's the big surprise. It's not a huge deal.
No, I figured we would tag team most of this event, and Lori puts out a great question. She says, will any of the sessions be available afterwards on Periscope or something similar?
My guess is probably not.
The official line from Zephyr is they do not do live stream events. However, you should go to the Wine Antics page on Facebook and follow me, because for the bloggers conference, I did live stream some events. I did not live stream all of them. I did not live stream the event, the session in its entirety, but I did try to find something that I was very interested in and thought was very relevant to my audience on Facebook at Wine Antics and shared it with them. So that is the unofficial answer.
So January, can I ask you, we got through all the sessions for this day. Are you popping in and out of sessions? Are you going to be working and organizing things?
No, I'll be in sessions. Of course, I'll be in the first, moderating that first one.
Of course.
But then the first breakout session after lunch, I, for the first time, have a second person coming as part of THCW with me. And so we'll split that up. I'm not sure which one I'll be in and which one she'll be in yet. But then that afternoon session, I think that I'm going to send Lindsay, who y'all will meet when y'all get here, to the content creation, because she's kind of taking over our social media and kind of, a big part of our marketing and stuff. And then I'm going to go, I think, to the creating engaging events, activities and events. And the biggest reason is because I love Beth Kosta, and as
nice.
As a winery association, as an executive director, or anyone who works within a winery association, there are people within this industry that you look up to and you literally follow, somewhat like a celebrity, and Beth is one of them. And so I love what she has done with Wine Road and the whole county, and she's been with them forever. And so I met her a couple of times, once at the conference, when I went out there, she sat down with me and talked to me. I was a year into the executive director position here, after I had been just for, doing events and stuff. And she's really great. And so I want to go see what else she has to say.
Awesome. All right. So I guess for the day, to wrap up, get close to wrapping up our time here tonight, is the final event of the day will be dinner and dancing at Luckenbach, Texas.
Yes.
Please to tell us about this, January, as I play us a little tune, if I can, with my not pre-tuned guitar.
Lead us in.
No, go ahead.
Oh my God.
Please. The only two things in life that make it worth living are, hold on, I'm reading the chords, are guitars that tune good and firm feeling women. Yeah, that's the Luckenbach Texas. That I couldn't say. But January, please tell us about this. This is a cool thing. Yeah. This is a huge deal, honestly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Luckenbach, I mean, it has its own song. I mean, how can it not be a huge deal? When you visit Texas, when you move to Texas, when you live around the Hill Country, that's one of the places you visit. It is iconic and you have to come. And so we couldn't not do something there. And the Luckenbach team is awesome. We work with Bobby and her team out there. And so they are excited to host us. We'll all again be on buses, head out to Luckenbach. We'll start with tasting. We've got 15 Texas Hill Country Wineries tasting in the dance hall. And Luckenbach will have Texas beer available. We'll have, only Texas. It is all about Texas. It is.
That is okay. But by that time, I will be ready for some beer.
It is go Texan, it is all about Texas night. So Texas wine, Texas beer, live Texas music by Chris Saucedo, the Chris Saucedo band
Stub.
from San Antonio. I got to say, I'm not, please don't shoot me, Stub, but I'm not a music fan. Like, I'm a fan, but I'm not a aficionado.
Not a music fan is sad.
Yeah.
I'm a little sad.
Okay.
I still feel like Chris Saucedo is actually Robert Elkeen in disguise, and that's what I'm holding out for. I'm holding out for Robert Elkeen.
You never know in Luckenbach, right?
I love it to perform for us. That's true.
You never know.
I mean, it's not that far from Kerrville where he's lived. I don't know where he's on tour at that point, but
but the feature of the night, of course, besides the Texas wine, is going to be dinner. And so we've got 3 different types of authentic Texas food, you could say. We've got Chuckwagon barbecue coming out. We've got authentic German food, and then, of course, Tex-Mex, which is one of my favorites. We're working on a little surprise with Go Texan, and hopefully we can get that, done in time for y'all. But like I said, it is all about Texas.
Boom. Yeah. And we are perfectly on time to wrap this up. I will give a quick, any final thoughts, anything that you'd like to quickly share. I will throw it to Stub first, because January, you just said a mouthful.
I just think out in Luckenbach, Texas, there ain't nobody feeling no pain. I think we've covered this day very well. And once again, I did drop this guitar lick and stuff on Jen, and it's horrible, and I'm very sorry.
No, you're not. Don't even lie.
I apologize that it's horrible. I don't apologize that I did it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
He
and
does
awesome.
it for the shock
So
value.
the only other question I have is January and Lori asked if I would wear the shirt while we're there. When we go to Luckenbach's dinner, do I wear my snakeskin cowboy boots, right?
Right.
Or do I wear my more traditional Tony Lama boots? What do you
These are
think?
the questions.
I don't want to look like John Travolta in in the city.
I'm going with more traditional.
That's what I'm going with as well. That's probably why I will not be wearing this shirt. I will be wearing something that'll be a little more subdued but appropriate for the occasion.
No, the shirt is awesome. The shirt is awesome.
Oh, the shirt is badass. I've worn this shirt. I wore this shirt on stage many a time when I was playing in my band.
Yeah.
All right. Let's save fashion advice for the after party. I will share one little tip. Yeah, there are a plethora of networking opportunities at this event outside of learning about tourism, learning about being a better producer, a winery, etc. use every opportunity you have. Those bus rides are going to be at least a half an hour, I assume. And I did some of my best business card drug deals on buses and and meeting people
to wear, Jen.
Well, I was moving this to drug deals. January, any final thoughts before we close out the Facebook Live and start the after party?
Yeah, no, I just like I keep saying, we are excited to have everyone here and show y'all what we have and taste some Texas wine. And then for us, we're excited to learn from all of these panels and sessions that they put together.
All right, perfect. Everybody here in Huzzah, stand by for the after party. Everybody else on Facebook, Penny and Michael and anybody else that stopped by, gave me hearts, gave me likes. I appreciate you guys. We will be back, and I like to tease for what we have coming up on Wine Antics Live for Thirsty Thursday, which we're talking about Halloween potions. Completely relevant to Texas wine, but at least maybe not so much, but very entertaining and very excited for that. I will see everybody else next Tuesday for our fourth and last live stream event before the conference, and we are going to wrap up with Thursday's conference events and sessions. So I look forward to seeing everybody there. Again, everybody in Huzzah, stand by. Everybody on